Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. In today's video we will be continuing with part 2 of our stylized bust sculpt. In part 1 we began by sculpting a rough skull and body. Then in this part 2 we will add in the eyes, nose, ears, and mouth. In part 3 we'll sculpt some stylized hair, and then in part 4 we'll do some vertex painting and lighting. I've uploaded a couple of reference images to my Dropbox. Okay, let's jump in. Okay, now starting with the eyes, create a UV sphere. Tab into edit mode, select the middle vertex and Alt-Shift select the first loop, and then press O on your keyboard to activate proportional editing, or you can press up here. Press G to move and then Y to constrain. Then with the scroll wheel on your mouse, you can change the area of influence such that the third loop doesn't move. Select the middle vertex here and then press X and select delete vertices. Now Alt left click the first loop again and then press E, then Y to extrude back along the Y axis, and then F to create a face, then I to inset. Then up to the object menu, select shade smooth, and then over to the modifier panel on the right, and let's add in a subdivision surface modifier. Then tab back into edit mode. Alt left click the third loop and press Ctrl B to add a bevel. You can play with the offset and segments to get the desired look. Here I'm going to go with 0.02 offset and 2 segments. Then Alt left click the inner loops and press Shift R to repeat the last operation you performed, in this case the bevel. This way you can keep your bevels consistent throughout the model. You can also achieve this with the bevel modifier and the mean bevel weight in the tool settings. Now Shift A and add a rounded cube directly in line with the eyeball to create the cornea. You can press S and then hold Shift to increase the precision of the scale as you move the mouse. Tab into edit mode, turn on proportional editing, and pull out this one vertex here in the middle and create a subtle football shape for a touch of realism. Then shade smooth and subdivision surface modifier as we did before. Now onto the eyelids. Shift A to create another rounded cube. Let's scale it up a bit bigger than the cornea. Tab back into edit mode, Alt left click the middle loop, then X to delete. Press O on the keyboard to turn off proportional editing. You can press L to select the bottom vertices here and then X to delete. Then Alt left click the bottom loop here and then press S and then Z to scale along the Z axis. You can hold Ctrl to incrementally scale until the scale field up in the top left corner reaches 0. Now press F to create a face, I to inset, and then Shift R to repeat the inset operation a few times. Shade smooth and a subdivision surface modifier. Tabbing back into edit mode, O on the keyboard to turn proportional editing on. I'm going to select this edge loop here, just one off the center. G, then Z to move it up so that the eyelid shape is something like this. O to turn off proportional editing. I'm going to select this loop here on the bottom face and then pull it down to get a better shape on the eyelids. And then I'm going to add in a little bevel on the edge of the eyelids as well with Ctrl B. Tabbing into edit mode, A to select all the vertices, then R, then X to constrain the rotation and open the eyelid up a bit. Then Shift D to duplicate, then S and Z until the Z axis scale factor goes to -1 in the top left. You can also just type it in the small menu that pops up in the bottom left corner as well. This effectively flips whatever you're scaling. You may notice that the bottom eyelid looks a little darker than the top one now, and that's because the negative scale flips the normals of the faces as well. To fix this, select all the vertices of the bottom eyelid, and then press Shift N to recalculate the normals. This is important later when it comes to texturing as well as for rigging. Now let's shift select all of the eye components, tab into edit mode, and move them into place. Now over on the right, let's add a mirror modifier. You'll notice it only adds to the last object you selected in the group. So to have it be added to the rest quickly, you can press Ctrl L and then select modifiers from the list. Now they should all be mirrored over. If yours isn't mirroring over nicely, you may need to tab into object mode and press Ctrl A and select all transforms. Okay, let's join the eyelids up now to the rest of the model. The mirror modifier does not work with the Ctrl J join function, so let's select the eyelids and apply the mirror modifier. Here I use an apply all function that is supplied by the built-in Blender add-on called Modifier Tools. Then as before, shift select the eyelids and the rest of the model, Ctrl J to join, Shift R to lower the voxel size, then Ctrl R to perform the voxel remesh. You'll get some level of artifacts like this around the eyelids. If you find that they're too big and jagged, you will need to lower the voxel size more, then just some more smoothing and crease brush for some cleanup. And then filling in some of the deep eye socket with more of the soft tissue around the eye. Now onto the nose, Shift A and let's add in another rounded cube and pull it into line with the nasal cavity we dug out earlier. Now into sculpt mode, let's use the deform brush and pull it into a triangular nose shape like this. I saw this technique used by a popular YouTuber by the name of Fynn GB, where he adds in another sphere for the nostril. I'll put a link in the description below to his channel. He's a very talented sculptor. So let's Shift A and add in another rounded cube. Add a mirror modifier, then Ctrl A and clear all transforms to have it mirror over to the other side of the face. Now into sculpt mode, I'm going to use the deform brush to pull it into a pointy, bulbous shape like this and start forming the whole of the nostril. Then switching over to the nose, I'm going to pull in the bottom part to open up the nostril hole a little bit. That's good for now. Let's Ctrl J to join it up to the head. Don't forget to apply the mirror modifier to the nostrils before joining. Shift R, then Ctrl R to voxel remesh. Then some smoothing. Inverted sculpt draw brush to dig out the nostril a little bit more. Now inverted clay strips brush to flatten out the side a little bit. Then normal clay strips brush on the tip like this to give some more shape to the fleshy end of the nose. Now to the scrape brush, I'm going to flatten out the septum and the nostrils from below. And then some clay strips brush along the side to accentuate the muscles here. Now for the mouth, inverted sculpt draw brush to dig out the philtrum right below the nose. Then with the normal clay strips brush, I'm going to sculpt in a V shape around the bottom of the philtrum like this, then extend it out a bit. Then the crease brush, I'm going to draw a subtle M shape. Then inverted sculpt draw brush, I'm going to dig out the corners of the mouth. Then normal clay strips brush for the bottom lip. Then more clay strips brush out at an angle from the bottom of the lip to accentuate the muscles here. Now some scrape brush on the front part of the lips like this. And then inverting the crease brush to accentuate the edge of the lips. Then more crease brush in between as it softened up a little bit too much with all the smoothing and remeshing. Pulling the top lip out over the bottom lip a bit, and then more clay strips brush on the V-shaped part of the top lip. Okay, onto the ear. Shift A and adding in a cylinder, tabbing into edit mode, and then S, then X to scale in the X direction only and make it a little bit thinner. Then moving it just where the jaw and the skull meet. Try and imagine your character wearing glasses and place where the top of the ear intersects with the head, such that it's at the same height as the middle of the eye. Then tabbing into sculpt mode, Shift R to lower the voxel size a bit, then Control R to perform the voxel remesh. Using the deform brush to shape it into the general shape of an ear. Lowering the voxel size even more for some more detail, and then using the clay strips brush to sculpt in the edge of the ear all the way around to the lobe. Then inverted sculpt draw brush to dig out the ear canal. You'll notice as I go along, I am continually pressing Control R to remesh and clean up the geometry a little bit. digging out the top part of the ear with the inverted clay strips brush, and then normal clay strips brush to sculpt in some of the folds here. More inverted sculpt draw brush to accentuate the edge of the ear, and then the deform brush to pull out the middle part as it can kind of jut out a little bit. Then let's smooth out the back and then dig out the top part where it joins up with the head. And that's good enough for me. Now just some minor adjustments everywhere, joining the ear up to the head. Don't forget again to apply the mirror modifier before doing the Ctrl-J join operation. Filling in the hollow of the cheeks a bit since he's looking a little too gaunt for me. And then some touch-ups on the bottom lip and chin. Now over to the eye. I'm going to use the clay strips brush to fill in some of the skin that can accumulate over the eye. This can age your character a little bit. And then for the brow, I'm going to press M for the sculpt mask tool and paint over the eye area like this. The masked off black part will not be affected by any brush you use. So with that area masked off, I'm going to use the deform brush to pull the brow down and over the eye. And then with the clay strips brush, let's add in some more skin and muscle. Some touch-ups on the jaw with a crease brush. Then with the deform brush, I'm going to pull in the neck muscles to straighten them out since they were sort of oddly fanning out originally. Sometimes to get a better sense of how the model looks, it's nice to add in some quick base colors. So with the body selected, over to the material tab, I'm going to press the new button. Then down to the base color field, I'm going to select a skin color. For the corneas, let's click new again and name it cornea. Scroll down to the roughness field and turn it down to 0. Then down to the transmission field and turn it all the way up to 1. Then down further to the settings area and tick the box for screen space refractions. Now the cornea should be clear. Now for anybody that finds white eyes completely unsettling, let's select the eyeball and click new for a new material. I'll name it white. Then click this little plus button here to add in another material slot to the eyeball. Click New for this material slot and then name it Iris. To get a better, clearer look of the eyeball, you can press / on your keyboard for the local isolated view. It will basically automatically hide everything else. Now select the vertices or faces that comprise the iris of your eye like this, and then change the base color to what you want your iris color to be. And then click the Assign button. Then for the inside of the eye, select all the vertices, click on the plus sign for a new material slot again, then New to create a new material in that slot, change the base color to black, then click Assign. And now you should have a rough approximation of what the model will look like with some color. So there you have it, one way to sculpt a nose, ears, eyes, and mouth. In the next video, we'll sculpt some very stylized, blocky hair like this. Give me a shout on social media and show me your creations. I love seeing them. I have a little Facebook group going now too, which makes sharing a little bit easier. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I hope it helped, and see you in the next one.